Oh my god. I'm turning into Belmont.
The grand finale to Castlevania is finally here. It's been 4 years, 3 seasons, and a pilot, but at last, the story of Alucard, Sypha, and Trevor have reached their conclusion, with all the violence, charm, and bloody fun humor we've come to expect from this series. And let's just do a quick recap of all the things that led us here. See, for myself personally, I came into the series with absolutely zero knowledge of the games, so when I first came into the pilot, I knew nothing. And after that first episode, I was hooked. We witnessed the king of all vampires, Dracula, fall in love with a human, then lose her to religious zealots, who kill her for the most medieval reasons possible, when they see a woman who knows things and burn her at the stake for witchcraft, causing Dracula to naturally embark on a plan to rid the world of humans with the aid of his vampire court and 2 human magicians, Hector and Isaac. The world's longest suicide note is thankfully cut short thanks to the efforts of the alcoholic scion of the vampire hunters, Trevor Belmont, wizard and all-around best girl Sypha, and Dracula's half-human son, Alucard. This trio were able to slay the big sad man himself, while also unknowingly stopping a coup led by the vampiress Carmilla and her unknowing idiot accomplice, Hector. And in Season 3, we would continue the story where Season 2, really 1, left off. We see characters like Isaac go on a therapy world tour, learning not to hate humans and to take control of his own life. Everyone else gets fucked though. With a now couple, Sypha and Trevor's sabbatical with a small village turns into a nightmare when the local cult tries to revive Dracula by killing the town and empowering a nightmare creature. Everyone dies, and it turns out the cool old dude of the town was a child murderer for some reason. And then there's Saint Germain, who I don't care for, but he's looking for a woman he's been simping over for decades, but she got lost in the multiverse. In other news, Hector got enslaved by the vampire housewives of Styria, and Alucard had a 3-way with Japanese twins who tried to kill him, causing the 20-something-year-old to cut them out of his life and discover the power of home decoration. This is the sad, triumphant, to back to sad saga we found ourselves falling, and with so many characters in play, the question on everyone's minds was, could this season pull off a satisfying conclusion, or would it shit the bed like so many other stories do these days? After watching the series twice, I can say with confidence, worth the hype, with only small flaws marring an otherwise phenomenal show. So let's go over what worked well, what was satisfactory, and sprinkle in my couple nitpicks. With first, as always, let's talk about the animation. Castlevania is a show that is gorgeous to look at. While it can be stilted in certain shots, never let it be said that the overall quality was anything but exceptional. With this season prioritizing style and speed over the more realistic fights of season 1 and 2. This was a shift that started in season 3, and they commit here. And this might be the most creative fights we've seen in the show. Where the first 2 seasons had the heroes fighting pretty standard vampires and fireball shooting enemies, the foes we see here come in way more variety. Like Alucard has a short 1v1 with a vampire who can teleport to either of his axes, letting him bounce around and forces Alucard to set a trap rather than just blitz his opponents like he usually does. Variety is a good word to describe the action of this season, because with all the shit we've seen, every fight comes off as being unique. I think this season, on average, has better fights than the rest of the show. But one caveat is that there wasn't any wow moment for me. Like, there's no bloody tears or Trevor dual-wielding whips. It had scenes that left me going, holy shit, but I never rushed to YouTube to watch them again. Most of these fights are 7 to 9s, but it's missing that 10. I'll go into some of my favorite action scenes later, but in the interest of keeping things spoiler-free, I'm just gonna leave it at this. This season's fights are bloody good times, even if it does occasionally hit what I call motion porn territory, which is the same problem I occasionally had with Jujutsu Kaisen, where the show just feels like it is showing off how much movement and flips it can do, that it loses track of the fight scene. Only happens occasionally, but it is noticeable. Like, I love fluid animation as much as the next weeb, but there is a line that is too much, and Carmilla sped past it 30 seconds ago. But for as many fights as this show has, somehow the punchiest thing in here is the script. Warren Ellis wrote the script for all these episodes, and while he didn't do a great job in tying the different storylines together, the dialogue, in my opinion, is on point. There are so many lines that just slay me, from Sypha and Alucard taking up swearing to realizing that they'd become Trevor, to basically everything that comes out of Isaac's mouth. This show could be a podcast, and I'd eat that shit up and ask for seconds. Warren Ellis is a really good writer. Sadly, he turned out to be a shit person, as his sexual allegations from over 60 women can attest. Which means his ass ain't coming anywhere near any sequels, and I can freely talk about the stuff he didn't do so great at. First being, this show has never been great at juggling multiple plot lines after season 2. The way to think of this season is 3 completely separate stories, with Isaac and Styria on one side, the Sypha show in the middle, and Alucard dicking around with depression. Of these 3 storylines, Isaac has nothing to do with the other 2 outside of one scene where a passcode that could have easily been written out is given to someone else. Sypha's doesn't join up with Alucard's till the second to last episode, which was basically the finale. And there's nothing that's built up other than characters appearing. This season is all about agency and characters learning to decide for themselves what they want to do is a great thematic element to tie all the stories together, but the storylines themselves, they're simply not equal in what it gives the characters to do. Sypha and Trevor kinda just hang around till the plot needs them to do something. Alucard is just on an escort mission, meanwhile Isaac is invading a goddamn country. Shit just ain't equal. And it feels like unless you're the focus, your story is on pause till it's your turn to be in the spotlight. It's clunky, and it annoys me that we had a season of setup only to have another half season of setup. We already love this cast and have a pretty good idea of where everyone is. You can just have things collide and hit the fan. We're ready for it. Also, the last thing I want to talk about before getting to spoilers is the voice acting. Now this cast has a lot of people in it, and decided to use a much more traditional acting cast to fill the role instead of normal voice actors, which it can work, but usually this is a pretty big red flag for me. But I can safely say that everyone is giving a good performance, especially once you realize a lot of people had to record this from home, but you can tell.
All done.
Did it work?
Why are you cowering in a latrine hut in Wallachia?
Is this a latrine? I just thought someone had gotten very scared.
But most of the cast, they all sound just a little bit off. They'll be sitting right next to each other, but the acoustics won't line up. It's subtle, but it's noticeable. And with the pandemic being what it is, I can't fault the show for it, but otherwise, I think everyone is doing a fantastic job. That's it for non-spoiler thoughts. Castlevania Season 4 is a great ride, with an epic but surprisingly heartfelt conclusion. Some parts of the story may stutter, but the rest of it soars. Now, feel free to stop the video because I'm about to spoil the hell out of this finale. Starting with Trevor dying. Not. Okay, I'm not gonna level with you. I like the fact that after 2 seasons of bittersweet to depressing endings, the finale decided to end on good vibes with everyone getting to live their best lives. Some shows want to carry that dark atmosphere all the way to the end, while in others, people get rewarded for being through so much shit. But a fake out death? Really? The right for the finale just so they can walk it back in the epilogue never works for me. And while I did cry, I still rolled my eyes a lot. And the final boss fight was a little bit wonky. Like, British dude turns out to be a death god. They foreshadow his existence in one episode in the beginning. Hell and magic are already shown to exist. Throwing in something this big at the last second could have failed completely. And for some people, I think it did. But Chris McDowell nails this performance and his lines are great.
Why is it that only human hands can reach into hell? Don't you think that's weirdly fucked up? I can't do it. But you could.
Kinda would have preferred Death to just tell everyone to fuck off before disappearing. Instead, we get Trevor with a god suicide pact dagger that we knew nothing about, finding a character we've only just met. Which, yeah, it's thematically cool to see a man who's danced with death his entire life have a one-on-one fight with it. This gave me big Hulk Ragnarok vibes where everyone could probably just walk away and be fine. Another small thing, but can I get an amen for Lenore dying? And I say this as a Lenore fan. Hector got enslaved and reduced to a pet, making Lenore out to be this mastermind who didn't really care for him. Then suddenly in this season, they're flirting and hanging out. And then Hector wants to still be with her? It was just all sorts of yikes, and it was almost as much yikes as Lenore wanting to still be with Hector after he helped kill Carmilla. Yeah, she was going off the deep end, but she was still one of her best friends, and people just don't forgive that shit. So I was relieved that they didn't end up together, and instead, she died on her own terms. Because I think one of them dying was probably the healthiest way that this relationship could end. And onto the battles, because I need to shout out these 2 fights. Isaac versus Carmilla is amazing. Not just because it gave both of them a chance to go head to head, but with how it smartly plays with both their skill sets. Carmilla is a fast vampire who lacks endurance, and she always goes for the kill, making Isaac a guy who, very capable, but only can survive for so long one-on-one against Carmilla. So he has to use his demons to tire her out first, and needs their help to keep himself alive as he finally fights her. And I don't know who this angel demon is, but this man needs a fucking raise for saving Isaac constantly. The other standout fight scene for me was the Berserk Pilot. That was pretending to be Striga. There's been a lot of whispers about the staff at Powerhouse wanting to make an actually good adaptation of the Berserk series, and honestly, they pretty much won my vote with this. Look, it's a hard thing in animation to make something feel like it has actual weight when it is so easy to make something like Carmel speeding around and cutting things like butter. But here, Striga is moving around in heavy armor, and you can feel that. When she fucking punches a horse in the face till it explodes, you feel that. So if they were to use this to pitch, oh, we can do Berserk, I think they can 100% do it. And that is almost the entirety of this scene. It's one massive Berserk reference, and I love it. So it's a little bit out of place, and I do think Striga and Morana do feel like afterthoughts in this season. They're definitely here just for spin-off material, but I'm a fanboy. I saw that armor, I saw the sword, and I just went blind to everything else. Overall, I really enjoyed this season. Story structure and problems aside, I had a lot of fun watching this show, and I'm glad it helped spawn a trend of more mainstream adult action animation. It's 100% worth the watch and gives us a satisfying ending, even if they had to rely on a trite cliche to get there. If you've already watched the last couple seasons, you'll enjoy this, though something tells me most of you already have. Thank you all for watching. This has been Sarcastic Chorus. Join the growing legion of people who semi-listen to what I have to say every week. Subs and likes are always appreciated, but please, tell me what you all thought of Castlevania Season 4, and which storyline you thought was the weakest, cause I'm giving it to Alucard, just because I think Sypha and Trevor's banter elevates them above a worse narrative. That's just my opinion. Peace out, and have a good one. And yeah, they brought back Dracula and his wife. It was a sweet scene. Really could have done without it, just like most of the Saint Germain stuff.